Hey guys, it's January in Central Valley, California, Zone 9B. If you think it's too late to plant garlic, guess what? You have one last chance to get it in the ground today, and I'm going to show you how to do it. The optimal time to actually plant our garlic is anywhere between October through December. That's really the prime spot, and then you don't have to pre-chill any of your bulbs. Now, because it's January, we actually do need to pre-chill them just a little bit, and the reason why is because our winters just don't get cold enough past this point where they need a certain number of chill hours to actually do it. Now, if you do end up getting the hardneck varieties, those actually will need to be in the fridge for a good 4 to 6 weeks just to ensure that they get cold enough before they're planted. But because we've waited so long, we do want to actually pre-chill them. If you don't, that's okay, because what's going to end up happening is the bulbs will actually not be as big as they could if they were pre-chilled, but they're going to be just as delicious because we still have the flavor, which is the most important part of this. Now, I've already prepped my beds. I have them all fertilized, I have them all cleaned out, and I'm ready to plant some stuff. So let's go into the garden and actually get these things planted. Now, if you were to plant your garlic in October through December, the best time to pull out your garlic is actually in the end of May. That's a great time for it. But because we're planting a little bit late, we do want to make sure that we get them a little in the ground a little bit longer, but before the heat really hits. So I will probably be pulling out my garlic at the end of June, before July's heat hits. And like I said, they may be a little smaller, but that's okay. The flavor is what counts. Now, how do you know when it's time to harvest? Well, the best time to actually harvest your garlic is when you see the lower leaves actually start to turn brown. Usually about 3 or 4 leaves are turning brown. The stalks might actually start to tip over. That's when you know your garlic is ready. And when it's time to pull them up, especially with our late planting, if you want to pull it up and just pull up one just to see if it's still a little too small, just plant them in the ground again and let it go for another week or two and see how it turns out. Now, you do want to have that papery spot on the outside of the garlic, and that's what you're wanting to look for when you rip it up. Now, it does actually take about 7 months or so for garlic to actually bulb up and really get the nice size that you're wanting it to have. When you go to actually plant your garlic, you want to make sure you plant it about 2 inches deep and about 3 to 4 inches apart from one another. You want to give their plants room to actually grow and get bigger. So that's why you want to have the spacing. Plus, you don't want them competing with the nutrients that you put in the soil. They are heavy feeders, so make sure that you are giving them enough nutrients throughout the season. I do sprinkle some plant tone over it every month just to ensure that these just get enough food just to help them grow nice and big and strong. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because my chicken's over there. Also, you want to make sure you plant them in a spot where they're getting enough sunlight. We want 6 to 8 hours of sun shining on them. So in my very first vegetable bed, that I have them planted is the perfect spot for me. And whether you planted them in October or if you plant them in January like I am, make sure that you're putting enough mulch on it to really keep those bulbs cool. The key is to keep them cool. We do not want them getting hot, especially when sometimes in our Central Valley, we actually get pretty hot, sometimes in May, sometimes in June. So we want to make sure there's plenty of mulch, at least 3 inches of layers of mulch on it to make sure that it actually stays nice and cool in the soil for them to continue to grow. Now, my raised beds are actually watered with emitters. I have emitters every 6 inches, and I think it's at a 1/4 of an inch drip tube is what I actually use for my garden beds, and it works perfectly. I mix it so that every couple of inches I'm actually getting water soaked in. So you want to make sure that you have some type of form of watering method for your beds, especially if you live in our area. I do recommend highly to have automatic water in that area. Now, the great thing about planting these things that when it's time to harvest, I say turn off the water completely about 2 weeks before it's time to harvest them. That way it really dries up. You get that really crinkly, papery look on the outside of your garlic, and it's going to be great. When you're planting a garlic clove, make sure you're planting with the flat side down and the pointy side up. Actually, let me go and get a garlic so I can show you what that looks like. All right, you want to make sure, so here's my garlic clove, planted with the flat side down, pointy side up, and that is where it'll start to sprout, right through the top right there. So just like that, flat side down, pointy side up. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried late planting and if you plan on doing it this year. Good luck. Bye.